Yeah, this is again probably a chapter worth reading, but at the same time easy to go ahead with. Also more and more of GARP specific ethics. What a professional risk manager has to, what a risk manager profession has to typically get into. How do you behave with your client? What is the kind of what is the kind of professionalism or what is the kind of integrity that you have to bring into the risk management profession? These are there with almost every subject. Even a CFA has its own ethics, FRM has its own ethics. So more or less there is a kind of an overlap in all these practices. So just even if you look at it, there is something that is talked of about professional integrity, which is looks like an ideal thing. But yeah, the questions wise, the way you get is like a simple case or a simple okay, this particular person was a certified FRM and he was doing this kind of advisory with the client. So as per this, so some kind of a situation would be given, and finally on that there would be a question asked: did he violate any of the code of conduct, or he was in line with the code of conduct? So probably it's better to read through some of the examples, and based on that you should be able to handle. It's more like good practices, but of course in some cases you will get more of a confused kind of answers. Probably in some cases saying he has not violated versus he has violated. So understanding line by line is a very important thing, but of course even the whole reading, if we see, it doesn't span for more than a few pages. So it doesn't take too much of a time to read even line by line of it. But in a nutshell, it is more like it looks as if we know all these things, but when it comes to the situation, we have to act as per the situation. That's the major challenging aspect, because here if we see, it looks like okay, you have to act professionally, ethically, with integrity in dealings with the employers, clients. One more thing is about existing as well as potential clients and the public. So every activity that you are doing, it should be in the interest of the public and any other practitioners. So judgment has to be very much reasonable. Yeah, the major aspect being gifts. One major thing, you have to differentiate between a gift versus a compensation. Right? When we are talking about some benefit you are getting to provide some uh, unrealistic benefit to some party, right? See, there is a difference between generating generating better results for your client versus focusing exclusively on that client because he is giving you some big gift or credit or benefit. So there is a difference between the two. This part is still a part of your profession, whereas this part is unethical. So that is where it clearly says you have to maintain independence of the risk management profession, which is what everybody will talk out the same thing. Even in CFA, the similar thing is there as a part of the ethics. What it says is you do not offer, solicit, or accept. Don't expect or offer or solicit any gift that could reasonably expected to compromise on the independence and objectivity of your decision. Just because this guy has given some additional gift, you change your decision from X to Y. That is where the independence of the decision. Okay, you have implemented a plan for your client, and let's say your client has got very happy and he has compensated you. That's not a big problem at all in the that is where the gift will, I mean, the questions you have to be comfortable. See, first you have provided a solution, and for that solution the client has really the client has really got happy with it, and he had given you a big gift. no issue. It's like a performance compensation for you. Or sometimes as a part of the deal itself, you will say, I would do this job, your service marketing, I would do this job probably at 2% of the total value, which are not abnormally high kind of a prices, but it's the same set of setting you do for almost all your clients. It doesn't mean that you should not earn more, but it means that you should not compromise on the, it's like, okay, this guy is paying me lesser, so I'll take a negative decision for him. The other guy is paying me more, so I'll take a positive decision for him. It should not be that. That is unethical. Whereas you can very well keep premium based services. Okay, you are paying less, only these services will be provided to you. You pay something more, we'll give some more extra. So that price based service can still be there. You have to understand the differences between. It's not that you will treat all clients equally. There could be a differentiation, but they all should be very clearly mentioned as a part of the process, and it should not go negatively to one person at the cost of the other person because he has compensated you more. Right? Probably you could give a better advice for this person who has paid more. You could do a personalized advice. You can have a personalized advisor for him, which is nowhere a violation. But if that advisor is acting at fooling the other party, other client of yours, that is where it comes as a violation. So take reasonable precautions to ensure that the member services are not used for fraudulent purposes. Generally, this is some place where we were, oh, I'm already an FRM. I know the risk management process. Or probably, I mean, sometimes to boast of the things, we use the risk management designation and risk management profession as if I'm already a certified FRM, I can control all the risks. Probably using it for such kind of boasting purposes or probably for doing fraud. Using your risk management profession and all for doing frauds or illegal activities and all, they are typically going against the basic behavior of the profession, wherein it could even revoke your memberships and the certifications and all these things can very well happen. And even without knowing the facts, you providing a solution to your client with probably some data googled and picked up from Google from some other or copied from some other analyst recommendations and all, you are trying to give solutions to your client. So these all go as a part of misrepresentation or probably not acting in a professional way with your parties. So dishonesty, deception you should not involve with. In all these things, there is a difference between a fact and an opinion. You have to clearly differentiate what is the fact, what is your opinion. See, okay, you are dumping with so much of data you get from various sources. You are mentioning the source of all those things. But you have to clearly differentiate whether this is a fact, because if it is from some other's report, it could be an opinion of that particular party. Right? So that differentiation has to be very clearly present as a part of your report. Because opinions are something which could be different from different parties, whereas facts are something which are more constant across. Right? So you should not create an opinion as a fact to your customers. Right? Someone saying the market is going to grow at 15% in the next 1 year. Probably as per this research agency, the market is expected to grow at 15%. So probably that should be there. Whereas instead of that, yeah, the market will grow at 15% next year. There's a difference between these two ways of wording in the same statement. So you have to be very clearly differentiating in that aspect. And the way the designation has to be used, right? Probably there is a way you have to write in your designation. Right now, everywhere you are talking of, you must mention yourself as FRM Part 1 candidate. Right? Probably not many other representations of the same are typically allowed. Right? Or FRM Part 2 candidate. So, such kind of representation, even in your resumes or wherever you are mentioning about yours, you are mentioning, you are not using it as a what you call, you don't use it in a hyperactive manner, wherein it creates specific attention. Right? Probably bolding it. I mean, though you can do it, again, there is a lot of, I mean, it has to be as conservative as possible. So don't engage or conduct or commit any activity that compromises or integrate even the validity of the examination also. No cheating in the exam, all those, the most common things which every examiner talks about, all those things are applicable even to the FRM exam also. And yeah, ethical and customs and those things. See, again, there is one part which comes out. If there is a, see, GARP is having a code of conduct here, but there is a local law also. For every activity which you are doing, there is a local law, there is a GARP code of conduct. Sometimes there could be a kind of clash between what GARP is saying versus what local law is saying. So what it typically says in those kind of things is, whichever is stronger, you go with it. Generally, local law is more stronger compared to any of the code of conducts issued by any of these bodies. So typically, if the local law is very stronger, you typically go with the local law as per it. And wherever there is no mention of some particular activity as a part of the local law, you go with the GARP code of conduct. So that kind of hierarchy has to be very much maintained in the process. And avoid any actions that are unethical as per the local customs. So no what you call racial or such kind of discriminations as a part of the profession. The law that is having the standard, that is having the highest standard, like local law or something, has to be given more importance compared to the GARP. If there is a conflict of of opinion between these two mechanisms, and wherever there is a conflict of interest, fully make a disclosure. So probably questions could very much surround around this aspect, right? He'll give situations where the conflict of interest do exist, but the major thing from your side is to you disclose all the things wherever the conflict has arisen to all the concerned parties. So expected to, so wherever you think there is a conflict, probably a client 1 versus client 2, you are forced to take a decision, or probably now it's like if you are taking a decision for client 1, it will impact client 2, or client 2, if you are taking, it will impact client 1. If such kind of thing is there where the conflict of interests are there, so or probably the client 1 would have said, if you are executing something for me, you should not execute for client 2, or vice versa. So that is where the conflict of interests are coming up, wherein one you can take your opinion, wherein you can take the opinion of your superiors and all that, but at every aspect, because there is an independence and objectivity is that is getting compromised, the all the concerned parties have to be informed regarding the same. See, some simple example, probably you are giving as an investment person, you are giving a recommendation to your client, asking him to buy the shares of some company, right? Now, let's say in the hindsight, you also have, you yourself own so many shares of that company. That's a kind of a conflict of interest. It doesn't mean that you should not own. You should not, it doesn't mean that you should not buy those shares. Please reveal them, so that the other party will not feel that you are asking him to invest in those shares because you have more number of shares, you want the share price to go up and you want to sell off the share at a higher price. So it doesn't create that kind of an opinion. So initially itself you disclose to the client saying I already hold these many things, but however my decision is based on pure objectivity, based on whatever the facts I have about the company, based on whatever the analytical model I have used for the valuation of that company, I'm still saying it is worth buying the shares of that company. So you are one giving an objective analysis. Two, you are disclosing wherever there is a possibility of conflict of interest. Otherwise, at a future date, it may come out that this guy has hidden this information from us, though it may or may not be relevant to the case. But at a later point, the trust and all these things will get impacted. That is where all these code of conduct rules say wherever you find some kind of conflict of interest coming up, better try to disclose to all the required parties about this conflict. And confidentiality, another part. So do not disclose anything regarding your previous clients, current clients, prospect clients, anything unless required by a court of law. Right? Unless you have required all kinds of approvals regarding the disclosure, don't disclose any of this. Generally, we have this habit of probably I have done this kind of solution to one of the client, right? Be sure when you are making those kind of statements, because as a part of the code of conduct, you should not disclose any kind of confidential information of one client with the other. And don't use the confidential information for personal benefit. Sometimes this is also a very common thing. The typical scenario being for a poaching purpose, poaching of clients from one company to other company. A lot of companies do this. Probably one guy leaving the company, he takes out all the customer database of that company and goes to the second company and tries to bully the customers to come and become the clients of the second company. This is a very, though it at a very smaller level, it is not taken as a big serious issue, but it's a violation of the code of conduct, because you are not supposed to carry anything once you quit one organization. The whole property belongs to the organization, not to the person. That's again, as a part of the joining agreement itself, you clearly sign on those kind of things. But of course, sometimes the organizations don't take those kind of things seriously. But in case they take up, you will be liable there. So that is what is the code of confidentiality related aspect coming up. And so you comply with all the rules and all that. And delegating the responsibility to others, you have to be very careful about it, because you are disclosing so much of information, probably about your clients or about various things. So you may not know how that other party will receive this entire. So again, even when there is a delegation of work, there should be a proper thought process and a kind of a legal backup pertaining to it, right? Typically, for an employee of a company, that entire thing is taken care of, like as a part of his joining formalities itself, the confidentiality related and all kinds of things are signed as a part of the joining document itself. But if you are delegating the work to some or outsourcing it to some third party, let there be again clear communication across all the levels, right? That this particular activity, because the client may or may not be interested in his work getting delegated to someone. So all kinds of approvals and disclosures are very much required, especially when you are going for delegations. Make sure that all ethical things are adhered to when you are going with the delegation of the responsibility. Understand the needs of the client or employer, and in case you don't know something, better go for a risk management advice. Right? It's not mandatory that the moment you complete your FRM designation, you know everything about the risk. Right? You make sure that even when you are dealing with the client, if something is not aware, you get back to the client with the proper information rather than giving him something which you know. Because the major thing is you have to act in good interest of your client. That's again one of the items of your code of conduct. So you should not compromise on that particular aspect, provide him intentional wrong advice. And not overstating the accuracy or certainty of the result. So you have to make disclaimers every time. Whatever the predictions I am making are based on some of the assumptions, and they are not going to be the you are not responsible if those predictions are not typically met. Some kind of disclaimer should be there as a part of all your reports. So handling of the disclaimers becomes a very important aspect. And whatever is your limit, knowledge, whatever is there, please don't hesitate to discuss all these things. Come out with the relevant, correct information when you are passing out the recommendation or information to the client. So from a best practices standpoint, again, okay, more objectivity, and yeah, get yourself equipped with the latest knowledge. So the knowledge of course, this particular profession or probably FRM has not intentionally made every year some kind of points to be accumulated or something like that. Whereas some other certifications, they have very clearly specified that the learning is a continuous ongoing activity, and every year you have to attend some minimum number of trainings and collate some minimum number of points if you have to maintain your designation, right? But continuous learning is very much required with these kind of profession. So get equipped with all the recent happenings in the risk management space, and see where all your particular client or company is deviating with respect to all the new things that are coming up, and suggest for the changes accordingly. And as I said, factual data, you clearly differentiate between your opinion with respect to your opinion data, and do the while doing a communication at any point, right? Sometimes the forecasts and all, they are only opinions, they are never the facts. But anything to do with the historical or something, they are more of a facts, but may not be the opinion. So you have to very clearly differentiate between the two when you are making any kind of your presentations and recommendations. So in case you violate any of them, again the order wise local laws and then the GARP code of conduct, right? Depending on whether a local law is available for the same or not. So the laws, after that the local regulations, probably if there is a SEBI kind of body, there any specific violations as per SEBI, or they will take more priority over the GARP code of conduct. So local laws, local regulations, and then the GARP code of conduct. Anything observed at any layer could result either in a very minimal punishment from temporary suspension to as maximum as revocating the right to use your FRM designation also. Right, it can go to that level, but of course there will be an investigation process. There will be a chance for you to appeal back on the decision that is provided. So the typical legal process will still continue, right? But once there is a revocation, probably there is nothing much you can do about it.